Hello and welcome. Today I'm doing a full... Hello and welcome. Today I'm doing a first impression full day wear test of the new Makeup Revolution or Revolution Hydrating Foundation and Concealer. Conceal and Hydrate Radiance Foundation with hyaluronic acid. That's the name. I haven't tried the original foundation because I don't wear full coverage matte foundations, so I didn't bother. But I have been using the concealer, so I have some knowledge of the previous ones. These I was very excited because they are hydrating, and as you know I have a very dry skin, although it is a combination skin, but it does lean to the dry side. What they claim is that this is medium to full coverage foundation, and as I said, it's supposed to be radiant and hydrating foundation as well with hyaluronic acid. It's everything I want from a foundation, so please. And the concealer has the same claims as well. I have shade F1 from the foundation and C1 from the concealer. I'll add the swatches here so you can see the difference with the C1 and with the concealers, and then these shades. I cannot talk today. So here are the swatches. This is the foundation in shade F1, hydrating concealer in C1, and then the original concealer in C3. As you can see, the C3 is more pinkish as they say in their website, and this C1 concealer is more kind of vanilla shade than the F1 of the foundation. This is more kind of neutral, a bit peachy shade foundation. But there is a difference, so these are not same shades. Before we go to the application and wear test, I need to say I do have a flu now. It's better than yesterday, but I still have a runny nose and I do need to wipe it, and probably going to take a nap too. So that will unfortunately affect a little bit to the wear test, but I hope in a good way, because then we can see if I can fix the problems during the day and how the makeup reacts to that, so we can see that as well. And as you know, I'm a glass wearer, so I have my eyeglasses on and off today, so we can see how terrible the look is at the end of the day. It's always terrible with glasses, but how? That's the question. But let's go into the application now so you can see how it applies on my skin, my first impressions, and then I'll come back with you. I have close-up now of my skin. I have natural light coming from this side, and then I have kind of normal warm indoors light this side. I'm going to use my Guerlain Meteorite primer. This is the primer I always use with my foundation reviews. I'm using my Smashbox blurring foundation brush. This is one of my most used, so also I delete the possibility of change with brushes. As you might know, I don't use sponges usually, so I prefer brushes. So foundation is good to me if I can use a brush. The shade looks a bit light, but I can live with this for sure. First impression, a little bit goes a long way. I did do a pump and I have used half of it, and this is quite heavy layer, at least to me. It looks very, very luminous on my cheeks and also my forehead. And it's applying very evenly, very quickly, even with Usually this kind of luminous moisturizing foundations tend to be leave a bit kind of marks when used with brush. I sometimes have to kind of tap on with a sponge after the brush, but this leaves quite a good layer. Normally I would use a pore filling primer because of this situation, but I don't use it on foundation reviews, at least on first application, because I want to see how they apply on big pores. And this does leave these black holes on my nose. On top they are wider pores, so this fills them quite well, but these are kind of narrower pores but deeper, and I get those black holes, which I absolutely hate. But I can fix those with smaller brush later. This was a very quick application. It does have a bit tendency to remove off my nose, which is usually happening with every foundation if it's not fully matte and instantly setting. That's also why I use primers on my nose to keep foundations on. This does feel a foundation that will not set dry. It's very tacky now, so probably have to powder a little bit or just leave with the fact that it's definitely not a transfer proof. It looks really beautiful on my skin, really moisturizing. The shade is quite close. It's actually a bit more cooler than my skin tone, but that's I can easily warm it up with powder, for example. This starts to look a bit heavy on my chin. That's also something that happens, and I already get kind of... Yes, when I move my chin, as I have a little bit of texture and oilier skin type, when I move my skin like this, I can see that it separates, so it really does not set. My cheeks are beautiful, but there is skin that doesn't move, but this chin area is always a problem. I do get creases and separation to my chin. And on my forehead, as you can see, it did cover my hyperpigmentation quite well. There are some shadows that peek through, but they usually do because this is close to full coverage, but it's not the fullest coverage. And my hyperpigmentation is so dark that if I want to remove it, I need to use color correction. Let's go to the concealer. Interesting, the shade in the concealer is different than the foundation. This is warmer than the foundation. Both are shade number 1. It does layer beautifully with the foundation, no problems blending these together. And it for sure creases. It has already creased on my eyes. It isn't full coverage. I can see a little bit darkness here, which is actually a surprising thing. I expected it to have more coverage, but usually these hydrating concealers are less full coverage, which I usually don't mind that much because I don't use full coverage foundations either. Yes, it applies really effortlessly, beautifully on my under eye area. No marks, no patches, but it creases immediately, which is concealer type, which I usually use. Oh my! It has already kind of creased on my laugh lines. This is something which rarely happens. This is one of my favorites, at least now, of this full coverage foundations, because usually they tend to be really dry if there is more coverage, and I just absolutely hate it. Now it looks beautiful. I'll do rest of my makeup now, and I'll come back with that if there's any thoughts when doing makeup. It is currently 12 o'clock and my cat is in here, of course. So I get today at least 8 hours, where possibly 10 hours, depending how sleepy I am in the evening. But I come back with my full wear makeup. We are back. Of course you saw my makeup in the beginning as well, but I'm going to be at home. I'm going to go to the grocery stores probably, and that's it. My chin does look a bit heavy with it is kind of surprising, kind of not. This is a fuller coverage formula than I usually wear, and it can be possible that I used a bit too much. So next time I need to be light-handed on my chin area. It is makeupy and a bit cakey already. It does look beautiful on my forehead, and my nose is looking great. It is looking, otherwise, if we forget the chin, it is looking beautiful now. So this situation is something I probably can fix with lighter coverage and maybe mixing with oil, who knows, or something, primer thing maybe. But we'll see during the day if this changes anyway. My cat has something to say. No tule syliin, tule kulta. But that's it. It's as I said, it was 12 o'clock when I applied the foundation on, so I will get at least 8 hours, if not 10 hours, to wear time to this foundation. I will do checkups during the day to see how it wears on my skin, and in the evening as well how it looks. And now I think... Onko vähän jänskää? Onko vähän jänskää? Noniin. So I will see you during the day, and yeah, that's the game. The foundation has been now on for 5 hours. As you can see, this situation here, I just wiped my nose. So I wanted you to see that this is the situation. But I have to say that it's not as bad as I would expect, because I have wiped my nose, I think 2 or 3 times now without touch-ups, and it's still kind of, the foundation is still on here. It has of course rubbed off from here, but it's not catastrophical, maybe because I'm so fair. But earlier today when I wiped my nose, I did touch up a little bit with the concealer. I took a small amount to my concealer brush and just kind of tapped it slightly onto my nose. And this actually, I haven't seen any caking up, I haven't seen any heaviness or anything. So this formula really is a great one if you want to touch up during the day, or if you have a flu like me. And when I did this few times already today, my makeup looked really good. So, and also upper lip, there is some parts that has rubbed off. But when I do this, I notice even more the difference with my nose now and my chin. I probably did use too much product because it's so heavy looking, and it is so makeupy and so cakey, and none of the other parts look like that. My forehead is still beautiful, cheeks are beautiful, under eyes look good, a little bit of creasing, which was expected as it is very creasing concealer. That is fixed now. So the chin looks quite awful. It is cakey, it's creasing. I look so much older from my chin now. I look like I'm 60 something. And then everything else is my age. I wouldn't say with this 5-hour experience that this is for oily skin, at least without a heavy powdering. But let's continue to wearing this. So far things are going quite well if we forget this situation. It is now 8 o'clock, so this foundation has been on for exact 8 hours, and I did just take my Miru and checked what's the situation is, and I noticed some things which make me sure that I already know how this is going to look in next 2 hours. First of all, as I predicted, my cheeks are looking exactly the same as they were in the morning. Nothing has changed, everything is on. And there was a little bit of this going on an hour ago. And after all that, she was on this side of my cheek. Everything is still on in here, so this little cuddling with a furry cat did nothing. And there was, of course, her hairs left. I just took my sticky roller and wiped those off, or rolled those off, and cheek is looking okay, but this area, which has been problem all the day, looks awful. As you can see, these parts, well, these of course, I haven't sneezed my nose or wiped my nose since my last check-in, so as you can see, it's quite okay, considering the fact that I don't have pore filling primer. My cheeks are looking great, my forehead is looking oily but great. But this, I don't know what that line is, probably from the cat, and there is a hair. There is these small creases here that rarely ever happens. I've seen those 3 times in my life since, so not often. This is something that does happen with many of my foundations, but not in this way. This looks much more heavier than usually, but this kind of separation does happen. I did have some time to watch few reviews of this foundation, and I was actually surprised to see that many of people who have tested this actually said that it is drying to them. It has been feeling heavy on my face. Well, it is medium to full coverage, and usually that kind of coverage does feel heavy. I must say that my cheeks are not as glowy as they were actually. I need to take back what I said in the beginning. Well, my cheeks are looking good, but they are not looking as glowy, and instead this my forehead of mine does look a bit more glowy. They used very thin layer, so it might be that if you use very thin layer it dries more and it is more dry. I used quite an, I think, average layer, so I think these might have stayed more moisture during the day. So that might be true that if you have very dry skin, this is not for you. This is surprisingly drying in that sense. But as I have combination skin, so I need to balance it with dry and oily areas, this fits quite well in between those and doesn't dry too much. I have a bit mixed feelings. I kind of love everything upwards from here and I hate this, but I need to test this another time to see how it actually. I am going to post this video tomorrow. It's Saturday today, and I will post this on Sunday because I know there is some people waiting for this. But when I do try this foundation on next time, I will leave comments to the comment section of how it went and my final thoughts, and I will probably post something on my Instagram apps as well. So if you want to see those, just subscribe and follow me on Instagram, so you'll see those updates on how it was next time. Oh, and the concealer, I almost forgot. There is creasing, as you can see. I did use powder. Usually I wouldn't get these creases anymore, but today they are here. Does look now a bit dry actually, this is interesting. The concealer is quite dry at this point of day and it's only been 8 hours. What I forgot to mention in the beginning is that there is only 0.7 fluid ounces, which means 23 milliliters, so not the average 1 fluid ounce or 30 milliliters. So this package is less than usual. But here were my thoughts. Luckily my flu seems to get better. I'm feeling better than in the morning. That's good. So I have Sunday tomorrow to edit. But now here we are. I hope you have a nice. I'm so tired. I hope you have a nice day. See you next time. Bye bye.